Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. In today's video we're going to be talking about Combo Breaker and Gateway Legends, the top 8 seeding for both events. At Combo Breaker, which is a B tier, you have Sir Dank and Raven King in 7th, Esam and Plugwork in 5th, MVD in 4th, Kobe in 3rd, DeBuzz in 2nd, and Riddles in 1st. And for our Gateway Legends seeding, you have Luis and Send in 7th, Shattuck and Goblin in 5th, Base Mage in 4th, Lima in 3rd, Apollo Kage in 2nd, and Mutace in 1st. And we'll start with Combo Breaker, and both of these events are insanely top-heavy, but some people that I think could break into the top 8 of Combo Breaker that aren't seeded to. I think Arctis is actually seeded pretty low. He's an insanely talented Falcon player, and I think he could definitely make top 8 if the bracket path does him well. I also think Skits has been such an impressive player, Frostbite as well. There's a bunch of people here that could make the top 8, but I want to talk about Esam, because Esam right now is a very interesting topic in this game, because he hasn't been performing to the caliber player that we know he can be. So I'm curious to see this tournament. How is Esam going to do, but more notably, which characters is he going to play? Because it's in my very humble opinion that Esam should just solo main Pikachu or solo main Brawler. And you know me, I love talking about co-mains and Smash Balls because generally I think it's a good idea. Pikachu is not a character you should be solo maining. He just has so much that you need to know, so many precise combos, as well as having an amazing matchup spread that maybe you need a solo main for 1 or 2 characters, like let's say, or rather you don't want a solo main for 1 or 2 characters like a Ness or a Game & Watch, but I think Esam may be slitting too much of his research into doing a lot of Pikachu stuff and a lot of Ice Climber stuff and a lot of Brawler stuff. So I'm curious this tournament, okay, what if he just goes Brawler? Because I 100% think Esam could top 8 a tournament with solo Brawler. I also think he could top 8 the tournament with solo Pikachu. I also think he could top 8 it with a combination of those 2 characters, but I'm very curious to see how he does here. I'm hoping for a bounce back from Esam because you know what? He's an amazing player, and we want to see that Pikachu propaganda being pushed because this character is absolutely ridiculous. Next up, I want to talk about Kobe because I think this event is incredibly important for him, specifically in that title of Best Youngling. I think if he performs here, even to his seed of 3rd, he could definitely take that title of Best Youngling, because right now, I would still give it to Suinoku just because his results have been so good for so long, as well as more major performances, but from Kobe, we haven't really seen him at the major level. We saw him do okay at Low Tide City. He was able to get a 17th there. He won Cirque du CFL, which was a pretty big regional, and he got a bunch of really good wins along the way, most notably 2 wins on Cola, so I'm hoping he's able to carry that momentum into this weekend, because I think Youngling is just a character that's really broken, that we don't see enough at the top level, and while there is a bunch of reps in NA, they don't really go to a ton of stuff, so I'm hoping Kobe performs here. His bracket path isn't super easy. He's supposed to get double eliminated by DeBuzz, which is honestly a pretty tough draw because DeBuzz is very good for that archetype of characters, but I definitely think it is possible for him to make any upset in this tournament. Next up, I want to talk about MVD, who doesn't get talked about nearly enough just because there's so many top Snake players right now. I'd say you have Apollo Kage and Dio being the ones stealing the show. We also have Kronos on the rise, Hurt, Ike, Alendis. There's so many amazing Snake players right now that are making incredible waves, and MVD doesn't have a ton of tournaments under his belt this season. He does have an underperformance at Genesis, but every Snake did bad there, so I won't hold it against him, but he has a 9th at Level of Expo, which is pretty good, as well as a 13th at Collision, which is really good, and even though there are some Snakes that I would rank higher than MVD now, by far his Nikita is still the best. And Nikita is a huge part in Snake's game plan. I think for the meta future of this character, it's going to be Nikita and it's going to be C4. And MVD feels like he's like 3 years ahead of Nikita. Like the last day of Smash Ultimate being played when everyone's mastered their character, MVD already has that down for Nikita. It's actually ridiculous. Everything else from him is good as well. Extremely calm player. I mean, he's from Brawl. He's got nerves of steel. One of the scariest players in the clutch in the world. And that's just kind of a Snake thing as well because he is so heavy. You're getting so much damage off every trade and then an up tilt kills you at 80. So I'm hoping MVD is able to perform here. He's never played against Riddles, so I'm curious to see how that goes. And if he does lose to Riddles, he potentially get a run back of him versus Esam, which is a matchup as old as time. So hoping that happens, or he beats Riddles, because I just want MVD to perform this tournament, because what can I say? I like some good Snake gameplay, and MVD gives some of the best. Now let's talk about the top 2 of this tournament in Riddles and DeBuzz, and I'd honestly be pretty shocked if either of those players were upset before Winners Finals. Again, if it's going to happen, I imagine it's MVD over Riddles, and then DeBuzz, it's honestly probably going to be Raven King, because I think he has a really good matchup versus Kobe, and if Kobe gets upset, it's going to be by Esam, where DeBuzz does extremely well, so I imagine that both those players do get to Winners Finals, and they have a bit of a rivalry going back and forth in more recent times. Overall, it is extremely in Riddles' favor. I think it's like 8-3 or 9-3 or something ridiculous, but DeBuzz did win the last time they played a Kagadibi. It was a combination of Min Min and Rosalina. I think from DeBuzz it's probably going to be Rosalina, but from Riddles we only saw Kazuya in that set, so I'm curious to see does he bring out the Terry, because the Terry has had a lot of success in the past. Most of Riddles' wins are going to be with Terry on DeBuzz, but granted, he used to play a lot more Terry, and that's just where he got most of his wins in that time period, so I'm probably going to guess that he goes with the Terry here. Again, I think the Terry does better versus Rosalina, at least because you have Luma being such an annoying threat. Really hard to get in. At least Terry has an easier time, as well as Crackshoot just being an amazing option to hit Luma and Rosalina. Like, basically every single thing that Terry does, it hits both the targets, so that's going to be something that's always a plus. But I think whoever wins that winner's final set probably wins the tournament. It's going to be really hard for either of those players, honestly, to win 2 sets in a row. So it's obvious, like, kind of a cliche, oh, they win winners finals, they're going to win the whole thing. But I think it especially matters for Combo Breaker. And we're going to move on now to Gateway Legends, which is the bigger event. But if there's any players that I didn't mention that you want me to go over in Combo Breaker, please let me know down below. But I think this event is going to be a lot less predictable than Combo Breaker, just because there are so many major threats that could make upsets. You have Doorstop here, you have Skittles, Dark Wizzy, who almost beat Akala at Battle of BC, you have Kronos, who did beat Shattuck at Battle of BC, you have Sean, who's like one of the hidden gems of this game. Sean is such a scary player. Ned as well, I feel like I haven't seen Ned in a tournament in a little bit, so I'm excited to see him perform. Ice Knight, like, I could go on and on, but the main one that I want to mention is Wilds, because Wilds is built different. Honestly, he's seated a little bit low. He does run into Icy Mist in the winner's bracket, which is a really tough draw because Samus does amazing in that matchup, and also Icy Mist has been farming as of late. I think she's someone that could overperform as well. I think she just got her win at Xanadu Homecoming, which is a super stacked regional, but I think Wilds could make that upset in the losers run as well. Again, it's not amazing matchups. He is supposed to lose to Geist, and I do think that Bayonetta does pretty well versus Kazi, but Wilds, he's just such a young talent. His adaptation is insane. I mean, his conversions, they kind of have to be good. You are playing Kazuya, but I think Wilds is someone that could definitely make some massive upsets here among a bunch of other players. And the first player I want to take a look at is going to be Luis, because I think his bracket, at least in the lower side, is actually pretty good for him. If the projected seeds actually happen, he's supposed to go against Shattuck, who he is up 1-0 against. Now, granted, they've only played once, but Luis did win it, so that means he's guaranteed to win the run back. Then he would go against Lima, who he is up 2-0 against. Then he would go against Base Mage, who he is up 4-1 against, and then Apollo Kage. And that's a little bit rough because he doesn't have an amazing record versus Snake. I also think Snake does pretty decent versus Palutena. At least it's been going more into Snake's favor as of late. But at that point, he's already way overperformed the seed. And honestly, I just kind of manifesting a Luis run here because we haven't seen one in a little bit. Now, granted, we haven't seen Luis in a little bit. I think the last time we saw him was at DreamHack. I forget which one, but he did get 4th place there. So he's still making consistent runs when he actually does go to these bigger events. But as of late, all the Palutena news has been kind of going to Jagaimo in Japan. You have Chag having some results, like he did pretty good at Battle BC. I think he got 25th there. Chase as well has actually been doing good at some events, but with Luis, I'm glad to see him back in tournament, and I'm manifesting a dub for him because he's just such a sick player. And also, another thing that he does really well, he's in the losers bracket. Luis in losers goes crazy. I don't know why people don't talk about this. I feel like he gets magic powers once he gets into losers, so hoping Luis can make a run here. Next up, I want to talk about Base Mage, and it's not because the bracket's good for him. I actually think the bracket's not great for him. I don't think Mutace is a great draw. I think Goblin's okay just because, oh, you can edgeguard Roy, but I don't think Lima's that good. I don't think Luis would be that good if he does make that run. But the way that Base Mage was playing at Battle of BC, he can do literally anything. He can win this event if he was playing like that because he just looked phenomenal. He looked unreal. That's the best Jigglypuff I've ever seen. Like, throughout the history of Smash Ultimate. Like, yeah, Senra's had some runs. Hungry Box has played good. Red Cannon's been looking good. Even Base Mage himself has had some runs. But just at Battle of BC, he looked incredible. So I'm really hoping he plays like that event because that's the best Jigglypuff I've ever seen, to be honest. And if he does play like it, he could definitely win the whole thing and get Puff kind of their biggest ever win. But I want to talk about the top 3 of this tournament because I think these are probably the people that are going to win it. Top 3 prediction winning in the tournament. I know, bold from me, but you have Apollo, Kage, Lima, and Mutace in there. And Mutace and Lima, they usually trade sets back and forth, but for every 1 set that Lima wins, it tends to be 2 wins from Mutace. So Mutace you'd probably favor there. Apollo, Kage, and Mutace have never played, and Apollo, Kage, and Lima have played twice. It was at Battle for the South, I believe, both times. It was in Grand Finals. Lima win the first set, and Apollo, Kage won the reset. So it's kind of 50-50 between all of these players. Now, Snake Peach, I think Snake does very well in that matchup. I don't know how Peach is supposed to get in. Even if you're spacing Snake super hard, you're ducking in and out of his stuff, he's just going to pull a grenade anyway, and then you're going to trade with it, and you're not going to get your super crazy long combos. But you also have that extra factor of, okay, at least you don't have to worry super bad about the Peach disadvantage, because I think her disadvantage in general is good, but there's certain characters that can bully her up in the air. Snake's not going to really be doing that unless he's like using Nikita or something, which again, future of the game, and Apollo Kage's Nikita is getting increasingly better, just like everything about Apollo Kage Polokage is getting increasingly better. But I think it's going to be between these three guys to win the entire event. They've all been playing well recently. Out of Battle of BC, you didn't have Lima at the event. You had a Polokage with a bit of an underperformance, and Mudis was the one that got 13th place there, so he had the highest placing. So you would favor Mudis to win the entire thing. I mean, he is the first seed, but if I had to pick someone to win the Gateway Legends, it's 100% between these three. And I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If there's any players that I left out, please let me know down below. I know we didn't go over a ton of people, but I just kind of wanted to give the general gist of both of these tournaments. And I also wanted to mention that Momocon has gone down to a B+ tier, so you have 2 B+ tiers and a B tier that are happening this event. There is a lot of Smash tournaments going on. Kind of sucks that they aren't all compiled into one, but hey, you get to watch your favorite players all playing at the same time, so that's great as well. But again, if there's a player left out, let me know down below. Sport's been absolutely unreal. Thank you guys for everything, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.